Grain production in China is greatly reduced. 3 state-owned grain companies are punished for raising price. The CCP National Grain and Material Reserve Bureau announced false propaganda about the harvest of autumn grains to cover up the grain shortage. Real estate companies reappeared a huge wave of bond defaults. The government does not provide relief funds. Under CCP's governance, people cannot afford to be sick. A single mother is sick and lives under the bridge with her daughter. Mrs. Song has lived here for more than 10 days. She has been sick and unable to work for almost a year. Due to living conditions, her daughter, who just entered junior high school, can only use a flashlight to do homework.
欠人家的房租，你得交良心。我们就没交房租，已经住了8个月了，这已经对我们很好了。对我治病的时候，人家没叫我搬出来让我住的，我就已经很感激人家了，更不能再往下拖人家的房租了。
我说可怜在那了，你暂时没有，我说你有个期限时候说，管你住多长时间，那么你干到。
The people of Chongqing shouted, "End the autocracy! Support Trump's re-election! A spark of democracy can burn a prairie fire." On November 6th, at the Hongqiao International Health Technology Innovation Forum, the chairman of Sinopharm Group advocated his own vaccine, but without actual data and experimental results. The common people were used as a test of the product. So far, hundreds of thousands of people have been injected with 2 vaccines produced by the Beijing Institute and the Wuhan Institute of Sinopharm Group. After vaccination, the number of people who left the mainland and went to foreign outbreak areas is now 56,000.
到境外的各个工地，华为的在180多国家地区的办事处，以及我们的外交官，离境打我们疫苗。 离境的现在是5.6万人，到目前为止无一感染。
接下来消息来自广电总局。
CCP extends its call to the entertainment industry and advocates zero pay. On the 5th, the SARFT issued a relevant notice that emphasizes on strictly controlling the pay of actors and guests, and encourages actors and guests to participate in social welfare programs with social responsibility and zero pay. It is ridiculous that a living person is registered as dead. Mrs. Meng went to Xinjiang in July. On October 5th, she couldn't get a residence permit. That she found out her account was a death account. The petitioners who were oppressed by the police excoriated the dog government. Why is it so difficult to demand justice? Justice system is full of darkness. They set back and threaten the people who came to protect the pregnant woman. It's fine when you earn money by fraud, but most importantly, the government agency supported eveners and even protected them.
会做出这么黑暗的事情，我打电话给舅父，我预约成功了，他居然告诉我一个地址就来你们这里，给我一个政府职能部门的地址，让我到你们政府来，知道吗？骗子骗钱的也就算了，最重要的是国家职能的部门，政府部门居然为虎作伥，还保护他们，各种保护。那我们这些人你觉得怎么想了？对国家有多么的失望？你现在是，我现在是对国家很失望，你知道吗？
A patient committed suicide because he couldn't afford medical treatment. The people suffered a lot under CCP's rule. The CCP's financial centers no longer enjoy prosperity as the economy is declining. CCP used the police crackdown on the petitioners filing complaints. The people cried for justice and sung the International, which was once used by the CCP to call for resistance against tyranny. From an 18-year-old man to young children, the petitioners were all arrested by the police to be sent back.
大家看一下哈，这个就是人大派了这么多警察过来把我们押上车了，还把80多岁的老人啊都弄上来了，让我上去看是。
中国政府日前通过非洲第一夫人发展联合会，向53个非洲国家的妇女儿童和青少年捐助了大批的新冠疫情抗击的疫情物资和一些必要的一些材料。那么在今天的记者会上，我们了解到这些疫情的物资呢已经运抵各国。
疫情发生以来呢，中非双方一直相互声援，共克时艰。不管面临什么样的风险和挑战，我们都将同非洲兄弟一道，风雨同舟，砥砺前行，推动构建中非命运共同。
Facing the four nations' military deterrence, the CCP sought support from its former big brother, Russia. Huawei again faces restrictions from EU nations and is making its last struggles. Communist China and India continue to confront each other at the border. CCP appears strong but is actually weak. CCP's central bank issued bonds in Hong Kong to raise funds because its economy is collapsing.
First, John, your thoughts about this software glitch and how much of an effect it might have broadly across the state?
It's one of the things that we've been looking at as part of our review. So there are about 36 other municipalities and counties in the Midwest that use this software. So we're interviewing each of those county clerks tonight to see if any other anomalies. We're also comparing the 2020 election results to 2016, which is how this first glitch was found, to see if any states look to be inverted or wrong, any counties look to be inverted and wrong. And so, but the fact that it got corrected is good. The fact that it got caught and corrected through these reviews that we and others are doing is a good thing. And also, I think a good thing, the Justice Department and the FBI aren't talking. That was James Comey's FBI that liked to leak. But they are speaking loudly with actions. Mm-hmm. There are multiple investigations going on in the FBI and the Justice Department looking at voter.
Government officials are bracing for more election-related protests at this hour. We've already seen demonstrations in a handful of cities.
In Philadelphia Thursday, dueling demonstrations were held outside the Pennsylvania Convention Center, where ballots are being counted. Pro-Biden protesters outnumbered supporters of the president. The two sides, separated by barricades, were peaceful. Wednesday night in Phoenix, hundreds of the president's supporters rallied outside the Maricopa County Election Center. The group criticized the decision by Fox News to call the state for Joe Biden. Demonstrators say the president can still win the state and demanded a fair count. Trump backers also protested outside a ballot counting facility in Detroit. Angry demonstrators banged on windows, demanding to be let inside to observe the count.
As everyone now recognizes, media polling was election interference in the truest sense of that word by powerful special interests. These really phony polls, I have to call them phony polls, fake polls, were designed to keep our voters at home, create the illusion of momentum for Mr. Biden, and diminish Republicans' ability to raise funds. They were what's called suppression polls. Everyone knows that now. And it's never been used to the extent that it's been used on this last election. To highlight just a few examples, the day before election, Quinnipiac, which was wrong on every occasion that I know of, had Joe Biden up by 5 points in Florida, and they were off by 8.4 points, and I won Florida easily. So they had me losing Florida by a lot, and I ended up winning Florida by a lot. Other than that, they were very accurate. They had him up 4 points in Ohio, and they were up by 12.2 points. And he also won Ohio, great state of Ohio, very easily. The Washington Post said Biden up 17 points in Wisconsin, and it was basically even. They were up by about 17 points. And they knew that. They're not stupid people. They knew that. Suppression. There are now only a few states yet to be decided in the presidential race. The voting apparatus of those states are run in all cases by Democrats. We were winning in all the key locations by a lot, actually.
Just to reiterate that, got one of the smartest guys around, Brian Kennedy from Claremont, one of the great strategic advisors, an advisor to the American Bond Foundation, the guys trying to get the money for these bonds that we issued back in, I think, the 1910s or the 1920s to pay for the infrastructure from Sun Yat-sen. And the Chinese, being the noble, decent people they are, were paying us as they go until the Chinese communists took over the country in the Civil War. And then they stiffed us, right? We kind of gave them a break during the war with Japan, but then they stiffed us afterwards. Brian Kennedy, the reason I want to have Brian on here, he's come out with a plan. I think he's still in draft. That's why we have not put it up as soon as Brian gives us permission. But Brian, welcome. Come back. Let's get Brian up. Brian Kennedy. And Brian, the reason I wanted to have you to kick off the show is that you've got this report of what's got to happen now and what's got to happen in the second term. Can you walk our audience through? Because it's time to get to work. The President of the United States won a massive victory on Tuesday, the 3rd of November, and now it's time to start acting like that. Let's roll. I want to see Peter Navarro with 30 executive orders every day. I want to see Christopher Wray's head on a pike. I want to see Fauci's head on a pike. I want to see the formal investigation of Fauci start, by the Justice Department, right? Everything Fauci, what he told the president in the task force, and then what he told the media afterwards, all of his contacts. We want to, get in and get testimony from all of CNBC, actually all of CNN, all of MSNBC, the whole posse, right? So, Brian, talk to us about this report you guys have, and when are we going to be able to put it out, and what are the details of it?
Yeah, no, it's already up. The final version should be up on the Claremont.org website. That's CLAREMONT.org website. And it is a exercise that Claremont did with the Texas Public Policy Foundation 3 weeks ago. And it was meant to be a counter to John Podesta and that Transition Integrity Project that they did several months ago, where the Democrats laid out what they were going to do to try to steal this election. And they've been carrying that out over the last, 2 days, 3 days. And in our simulation...
Okay, hold on. So, Brian, hang right there. Stay right there. Talk to our audience. Transition Integrity was the convergence of lawfare, social media oligarchs, mainstream media, and their street thugs. A combo to basically steal the election. This was the plan to steal 2020, the Raheem Kassam, Steve Bannon roadshow. Tell us in the last 48 hours, be specific. How have you seen them execute their Transition Integrity Project?
Well, the first thing they did was engage in information warfare. And so, not to be at all conspiratorial, but you had Fox News, which had been the source, one of the key sources of conservative information, news, what have you.
From what I know, many of our brothers and sisters in China are waiting for the result of the US election. Within the CCP, countless people are also waiting for the result of the US election. I can tell you, don't be impatient. When you see the US election coming to its conclusion, people inside the CCP will see it clearly, that it's over for the CCP. It will definitely not turn out as they say, such as their for confidence. BRI, virtual currency, providing wisdom to the whole world and take care of the world's problems. All of that was based on their assumption that Biden will be elected as a president in 2020. But after the dust settles, all of the CCP's plans will vanish. Has anyone noticed? On the 5th meeting of the 19th Central Committee of the CCP, what changes took place in Xi Jinping's speech? Did you realize? Back then, he already realized that destiny had abandoned him. He was also aware of the price of interfering the US election. You know, due to the internal political balance of the CCP, there were 5 things he should have said but never did. 1. Make a firm statement about attacking Taiwan. Instead, what he said was peaceful coexistence with Taiwan. This was one of the things you can see. 2. To provide Chinese political wisdom to the whole world. This was not mentioned. Instead, this point turned into providing solutions to the world's economic problems. Politics was out of the picture. 3. Did you see it? Not a word was mentioned about anti-corruption within the CCP. 4. Their usual harsh stance against Hong Kong and ethnic minorities in Xinjiang, Tibet, with threats of arresting, killing, and not agreeing to any of their demands. All of that was not said. Finally, the statement about not agreeing to anything from the USA or Chinese people. And therefore confidence. There was none of that. In other words, the Xi-centric policy to challenge the US hegemony in the world was gone. Did you hear that? Why? You can go back to watch it again. The 5th meeting of the 19th Central Committee of the CCP was a solid proof that the CCP is well aware of the fact that without the economic and political support from the USA, the CCP is guaranteed to die. The economy of the CCP's China is on the verge of collapse. Our new federal state of China is here to make the world realize that without the economic support of the USA and the Western world, the CCP cannot last a day.
The U.S. recorded more than 126,000 new COVID-19 cases on Saturday, the most in a single day since the pandemic began. Denmark fined 214 people with the mink-related coronavirus. France marked a great milestone of over 40,000 coronavirus deaths. India reported 45,674 new coronavirus infections over the past 24 hours. Japan identified more than 1,300 new cases of COVID-19 on Saturday. 413 more died of coronavirus in the UK as cases rise by nearly 25,000. The Australian state of Victoria will lift even more COVID-19 restrictions as the virus there appears to be under control. Europe and the UK say significant differences still remain in Brexit trade talks.
Dear mama, are you okay over there? Your son is crying and missing you, and sees you in his dreams. You said take down the CCP, cause it's God's will, it's God's will. And so I'll wait for you, and I'll see you when we end the CCP, yeah. So